just to give you a bit of context, this is something that I also emphasize a lot in my trainings with reps as they are moderators. Now, we've been going on Unitu for almost 4 years, consistently with increasing number of universities. And moderation has always been the key area of concern in the first, say, 2-3 years, especially when you have boards with a large amount of engagement. Now, when we started Unitu, we had basic moderation functionality. You can flag any comment, any post, and it can be reported and removed. But with the anonymous functionality, it didn't really allow us to focus on the users who were actually abusing the functionality. And to give you an idea of the inappropriate use of Unitu, it was like 1%. But even if it was like 1% on a particular board, it still had a negative impact on the morale of the community, of the students and the staff. It set out a bad example. And I think for the first 2-3 years, we had, the first 2 years, we had staff come up to us and say, can you turn off the anonymous functionality? Not on every single university, of course, but some boards. And we have the option to turn off the anonymous functionality, and we turn it off. And what we found was it solved the problem. It stopped students giving inappropriate feedback, but it created a new problem. And the problem it created was that students stopped engaging. So we realized this isn't the way to actually solve this particular challenge. So we then decided to create a 3-strike policy to penalize the student who uses it inappropriately, rather than penalizing all the students who are using the platform. Because the anonymous functionality is very, very important for the students to give them their feedback honestly and freely. But obviously, we don't want students to abuse it. So to first explain the 3-strike policy, the way it works is really simple. You can find pretty much the content policy in any area when you click on report. So if any feedback violates the content policy and it's clearly inappropriate, then the moderators, i.e. Unitu, course reps, and staff members are able to report and remove that feedback. In addition to that, the new thing that we created over the past 2 years is a 3-strike policy. And this has had tremendous impact in having students use the platform in a constructive and professional way. So every student who logs onto Unitu for the first time is shown the 3-strike policy and are asked to accept it. Maybe not all read it, but they accept it. And the students who may create a content, comment, or a post, and it gets reported and removed, they will get their first warning. If they do it again, and again, they may do it anonymously, the second time they'll receive a 2nd strike, which will automatically take away their ability to post anonymously. So in this case, my demo account, I've used this a lot, and if I hover over, I can't click on this, and it says you cannot post anonymously because you violated the Unitu content policy multiple times. So it's clear to the student through the functionality, but it's also clear through the email. And then if they do it again, and this time they're not anonymous, they will then have their account suspended, and we will put them in touch with the university. We haven't got past the 2nd strike with some students. Of course, there are strikes. There are a number of first strikes. There's not a huge amount, but there are a number. And there's a less number of 2nd strikes, and there are 0 3 strikes, a 3rd strike given. And we've never had an institution we're working with now, once we've introduced this functionality, come up to us and say, can you turn off the anonymous functionality? Which is, to us, a tremendous kind of victory, or if you like, a win, that this functionality has led to students actually use the platform more constructively, and we're able to maintain and increase the engagement, but also ensure the students who don't use it properly are penalized for it. So the way it works is really simple. So for staff members, they can only moderate the area in the public part of the board that we set, and reps can moderate the private. And if I click on the idea, as a staff member, if I see something inappropriate that the rep hasn't actually dealt with, they can then click remove directly. So I can click remove, and that student will be automatically given the strike, and that post will be removed from the system. If I click report, as any user can, it's rude or offensive, explain, click submit, Any user who clicks on report, an email notification will go out to the moderators. You can access it in this tab here called moderation, reported content. You can see on this table, 12 seconds ago, there's a report made on the Department of Sociology board. Click on view content. I then have the ability to decide to remove it or not remove it. Now, there's some really important things to consider here. It can be a gray zone on certain pieces of content. Sometimes it's black and white and it's very easy and it's easy just to remove it, but there are sometimes a gray zone. And we definitely recommend, if it's a gray zone that you feel, I don't think this student should really receive a strike, but what they've written, they probably should reword it differently. We 100% advise you to go back to the board, to that particular comment, or you can go here by clicking view context. See which one it is. So it's about this idea. Maybe this is the rude comment. Go back to Department of Sociology, find the idea or the title of the feedback post, and then write a message to the student. So you can say at Cheryl and say, what you have written is valid, but at the same time, what you have also written in your comment is something that's slightly inappropriate. You have the option within the next day or so just to edit your content. Otherwise, we're going to have to report and remove it. So it's better to have a dialogue to encourage the students to be aware and change it rather than instantly giving them a strike, especially on the gray zones. But if you do decide to remove it, click close report, explain to the user why you're removing it, and then click submit, and then that comment will now, or that post will be removed from the system. And that user will now receive a strike. Now, there are times when the user feels like it's unjust and they shouldn't receive a strike. They can appeal and they'll come to our team, and then we will deal with it with them on how to better resolve this dispute.